It is Monday, October 20th. It is 4:30 p.m. and we are in the Nashua North Boardroom, and this is the Board of Education policy meeting. We are meeting at a unique day and time this month because later in the meeting we will be having some guests from the curriculum committee meeting to talk about the homework policy that got sent back to us from the full board. Okay, so I started at 4:30. So I am here, Mr. Johnson is here, and the two of us make a quorum for this.
The board and for
So we can move forward. We also have Mr. Posca. All right, so, I've foolishly closed my window. So tonight we have a bunch of policies. 10. We have 10. That's a very ambitious agenda. And this is the wrong page. I'm sorry, I'm just a mess all over the place this evening. Here it is. Okay. So we have 10, but I think a good half of them are old policies that we are going to talk about rescinding because we're going to kind of like merge them into like big mega policies.
okay.
Okay, so the first policy tonight is IHCA. Oh, look, our guests are here early. That's okay, you guys are welcome to come and sit at the circle with us. We just started. We were delayed for a few minutes while I learned how to work the microphone.
Oh, do we sit?
You can sit wherever you want. Grab your name tag. Ms. Giglio,
I don't have a name. Oh, wait, it's in here.
Probably in the back.
and Ms. Prin from the curriculum committee have arrived. We can't have a joint meeting. Well, 4 is okay. If we get a 5th, then we'll hit a quorum. So we can only have the members of the policy committee actually voting this evening. But everyone can participate in conversation and questions. And when it comes down to the homework policy, we will, we want your input, that's why you're here, so.
Yeah, but it's nice to be here for the other items.
Yes, I love input. Okay, so we were just getting started. Our first policy this evening is IHCA summer activities. And this policy is required because of the updates to the Ed 306s. This is not a policy that we have had in the past. While we do run a number of summer programs, we haven't had a specific policy that says that we run them. And that's basically what IHCA says. It just says that we encourage summer learning. There's a list of a variety of ways that this can happen. And that if you're in high school, you can use your summer learning towards graduation competencies. And pretty much that people should consult with the school counselors.
Exactly. I think the biggest discussion point that Ms. Raymond and I had when this new policy, which is coming through ED 306, is if there are students who are attempting to pursue some of the competencies over the summer, that they notify and work with the counselors prior to the end of the academic year that they're going forward and that get approved, as opposed to coming back in September and saying, here, I've done this, I would like credit. So that would be, one of the bigger changes in this, but I think there's a lot of conversations going on between the counselors and the students there. We've just memorialized it within the policy. As this was a brand new policy from NHSBA, for the most part, we're adopting, minus that part about asking the students to get approval prior to the end of the year. I would also see if we could recommend we delete the optional piece that should not have been a part of this draft that we sent forward, but everything else would be part of that going forward.
Yeah, I had wanted to ask you about that because the Nashua summer programs have changed over time, right? And so I worry that if we list what we offered last year, if next year something gets a new title, we'd have to pull the policy and
Correct.
update it.
Yep.
Does anyone have any concerns about deleting that optional paragraph that lists Nashua-specific summer programs?
Yeah, I have no concerns about that. I think everything is in those first two paragraphs, so it doesn't seem necessary.
Okay. Anyone else? Any of our guests have thoughts?
I,
Oh.
I can't bring up today's.
I had, so my kids go to North, and my son came home today, and he said he had problems logging onto the internet all afternoon, and it took, I don't know, probably a good 10 minutes after I got here before my computer connected.
It's still connecting me to the,
And I don't have an extra copy.
no, it's okay, I can
Okay.
It'll come up, I'm sure, at some point, but it still has me from our meeting last week. It's got the strategic plan. That's
Okay. All right, so I move that we approve IHCA summer activities, deleting the last paragraph after the word optional, but keeping the legal references.
I will second that.
Okay. And it's just us voting tonight, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Our guests can vote too if they can't, right? Could they vote or?
No, because they're not
They're not
members or
members of the
alternates.
Policy alternate. Got it.
Does that make sense? If we
makes
had,
sense.
we can't call it a joint curriculum
Right.
policy meeting, because then that would put 6 people assigned to be here, and that would be
And that
a
would-
quorum of the board, and then votes would be binding.
Yep.
And that's not fair to the,
So we keep it as
Other
us two
people.
for the policy for. the votes.
however, I do want, if you guys have an opposition, we should
Hear it.
hear it, and we should have it noted in the minutes. And it could potentially influence our votes. Because that's kind of the point.
Yep.
Okay. So the next policy is IJ, instructional materials. And so you'll notice that we only looked at this policy last year. However, it is one that the state is asking us to update again. There's just a little bit of tweaks in language about saying that our instructional resources should be organized and accessible to students, staff, and parents, managed through circulation policies and procedures designed to maximize the use of the resources. And it's really just rewording. I think the intent is the same of the sentence that we had, but it's a little bit more clear, right?
Correct. I think, making each school's curriculum resources organized and more accessible to students really does tie in with some of the updates in the New Hampshire Parental Bill of Rights, so that just kind of promotes some consistency. Again, this is part of the updates through ED 306. So not a lot of major changes here, just as Ms. Raymond said, a couple tweaks to some of the verbiage.
Okay. Any questions or thoughts?
So if a parent wants to access this information, is it just readily available or is it something they have to inquire about?
There are updates to our curriculum for the elementary and middle school online for the core curriculum. If they're having difficulty accessing that, they can certainly go through the schools and the counselors. The high school is kind of a unique scenario because of all the variety of courses. What we've asked and when we've informed the building principals that if there are inquiries regarding, let's say, history of rock and roll or something like that, might be one of those one-off courses. They have a resource of all the curriculars and course expectations available that they can be shared with parents. But a lot of those were shared with parents and guided to the beginning of the school year as
Right.
well.
Okay.
So, I mean, under state law and under our hopefully current practice, any parent at any time could ask to see what their child's, assignment will be. I know in the high school, for my students, the teachers have sent home a syllabus at the beginning of the semester, and I usually have to sign that and return it. acknowledging that I have reviewed all of the materials that they're going to be using.
Yeah, I've had the same.
yeah.
It's always been sign off on things, because some of the classes may have things that, they might be seeing a rated R movie, so they need to, if they're under 18, they need the parental permission.
Yep. And so, yeah, same with that. And I like the syllabus. I'm glad that we're kind of moving in that direction. Because sometimes there are books that the kids are reading that I didn't read in high school because they didn't exist back then. And so I like to go to the library and check them out, right? Because I'm curious. And sometimes they read some really great books. So, questions? No?
Nope.
All right, I move that we send IJ instructional materials to the full board as it was presented this evening.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So the next one is IK. And this one needs a little bit of explanation. So part of it is state law changes, and part of it is the Ed 306 changes. And what we found is that those changes impacted, several policies. And so what we want to do is we've completely rewritten IK, which is high school credit competencies, by including a number of other policies that we already had in this policy. So we're pulling IKAA, which is interdisciplinary credit, ILBAA, which is competency assessments, IMBC, which is alternative credit options. I think it's just those three. And we're putting all three of them together in this mega IKAA, which is now going to be called earning of credit. Although it says interdisciplinary credit on my, oh no, it is earning of credit, I've just misread it, which is now earning of credit. And so that will cover all of the ways that students can earn credit and include some of the competency language that is now in the Ed 306s, which Nashua has been doing since 2016.
On or about, yes.
So it's a lot. And if you look in the packet, the next couple of policies, IKAA, which was a short little one, where'd the other one go?
Yeah, I only see IKAA.
Are they just not in the right order?
I don't think they're in the
I
same.
don't think they're in there, yeah, because then we go right into the.
IKF. Oh, all right. Well, if you're able to, no, they're way down.
Oh, I see, yeah, IKF.
Down. There it is. ILB.
That's homework.
Keep going.
Scroll.
ILB.
Oh, IKFA,
Yep. IKAA. And
ILBAA.
ILBAA starts on page. So what page is that? 20. I don't know why they got into a weird order, but they're just misordered in the packet. But so that's where some of that other language came from.
Okay.
Ms. Raymond, to your point, if you can see the original IK version is just two short paragraphs. Our thought process when we tried to present this, and I think you can see that from the first sheet that has all the policies and what the recommendations are forward, by approving policy IK, if that is the recommendation, we can then go back forward and then rescind those other policies because they're already embedded in IK. So that was how, when we talked about trying to put this together, that's the kind of the sense behind it. And I think as we go forward, that'll be the conversation that we have.
So do y'all want to go through IK kind of section by section, or have a couple seconds to read it? Like, what would you like to do? I mean, I think,
I'm good going through. I mean, I've read through it, and now that I know where the other rescinded ones have fallen off to, yeah, I think we can go through it.
okay. So basically, it just puts all in one place, really very clearly, step by step, goes through how we decide whether or not a student has earned credit for the work that they're doing. I kind of like the fact that it talks about the ELOs and some of the other things because it really lays out a framework that you have to have competencies under section B that the student is demonstrating that they can achieve those outcomes in order to earn credit. And so that's what B talks about. And you'll notice when you have a high schooler that on the syllabus, it goes through exactly what those competencies are and the grading scale, which is lovely. Because then you and your student can sit down and figure out what it exactly is. What skill are they supposed to be demonstrating to correspond with the letter grade that they're getting. And then C goes through the differences between a classroom class or we have some students who are home educated students and come to school here. There are people who kind of do a hybrid situation. There are some students who do ELOs on their own. There are students who go to the community college and take classes, and they get then credit here and credit at the college. What else do we have? Oh, we have kids who are doing the VLAX.
Yeah.
And then there's the Learn Everywhere program, but I don't know how many people are actually doing the Learn Everywhere
Not
program.
many. We have not gotten a lot of requests for it.
Well, I think part of the struggle with that is that the idea was like you could do an internship, right, and have that count towards college credit. But there aren't a lot of companies offering internships that are
High school level.
producing, these types of skills and competencies that could then be assessed.
Right. Yeah, they want to sort of have you have basically have competency and then take it from there.
Right. And then there's a whole thing about interdisciplinary credits, transfer credits. Pretty much any school in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. It's interesting to me that Massachusetts isn't on the list. But pretty much any school in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, if a student transfers from any of those schools into our schools, as long as they have received a C or above, we pretty much accept those credits, right? Yep. Why do you think Massachusetts isn't included?
I don't know.
That's so
You would think
weird.
that's where you would see the most credits coming from.
Right? Well, I know that I wonder if it's only because Vermont, there's a shared school district between New Hampshire and Vermont.
Okay.
I forget which one it is. And also on the border of Maine,
Yes, there is.
There's a shared-
Manchester, Maine.
Yeah.
That's right.
there's a shared school district. So perhaps it's just for those specific two school districts.
But mostly if you move here from somewhere, you're not like starting back in ninth grade when you're when you're a senior or anything like that.
Not typically. Do you know, Mr. Posca, do we do that? If someone moves here from like Nebraska or California or Alabama, do we make them take a test?
No, I mean, for the most part, what we're trying to do is trying to match up the curriculum that they took in their previous high school and see where it mixes and matches. Sometimes we can, there are courses that they give, that we can give elective credit for. And going forward, like, an example be going forward, if someone transferred in now, they would be responsible for having to take the civics test here in this state. So that would be a requirement that maybe they took a civics class in their previous state, but then now they would be responsible for that assessment that they would have to take. So a lot of mixing and matching going on, and I think that does lead to a kind of a question that I wanted to bring up that's highlighted in the yellow in the sheet of when there is a question, what is the preference of the policy committee, of this recommendation of who should have the final say? Is the recommendation the superintendent, the final appeal should go to the superintendent, or should they have the opportunity as, per policy BAA, to have a kind of a final settlement here with the board?
So that's page 2, under E, transfer credit, item 4B, we need to decide if the superintendent's decision is final, so if a student transfers in and the principal says this does not meet our requirements,
Right.
the superintendent reviews it and says, no, it doesn't meet our requirements. Do we want to say, that's it, parents, you have no other options? Or do we want to have the board have a hearing?
I think it's a good idea to leave the option of a hearing in there because we have those options for other things where someone can appeal something to the board. It seems like the superintendent definitely knows, but I don't think we should take away the option to appeal to the board.
Okay. Ms. Prin, you look like you were mouthing something.
I agree with Rob. I do. I think that, especially as a parent, you want to be able to have another option. If the superintendent, yeah, the way you put it, it was perfect, that we have the options for hearings for other things. We should have options for hearings for this, too.
Okay.
As well.
So I'm just looking at our BAAA policy. Go ahead. No, I'm looking on the website.
If I can just summarize it, it just kind of alludes to what Mr. Johnson said, per other policies, the final, some of the final says does come, decision-making process does come before the Board of Ed. In so many words, that's really what BA is, what this was referencing here.
Yeah, so BAA says on page 2, any person may request an exception to any board policy or the application of the same by submitting a letter to the superintendent. The request shall identify the name and contact information, the policy for which the exception is being requested, and the action that the individual desires, and the rationale supporting the need.
Yeah, so that should apply to this as well.
Yeah.
And
And then it just says the superintendent will investigate. The board shall have final and exclusive authority to determine whether to grant the request and shall be the sole judge of whether the rationale for the exception is sufficient. That hasn't been touched since 2016. When we get through all of the legal updates, we should probably look at this one too, just to make sure there's not something that needs to be touched on it. Okay. Thoughts? Everybody's good with, so I'm going to write on my notes that we are selecting further review upon written request by the parent guardian. Such denial can be submitted for review to the superintendent.
To modify the
To
principal's
modify the
denial.
principal's denial, period. Any further review shall be subject to the provisions of board policy. So we want that, any final review subject to BAAA. I'm just going to write language. I've really not written it all out and just put a note here because the binder ring is in my way. Okay, so that is one decision. The next section is about the Learn Everywhere program. And again, it talks about how you have to, under section B of this policy, how you have to demonstrate the achievement of competencies. And so I think that's one of the big barriers to the Learn Everywhere program. It talks about these tables, 3061, 3062. Those are the tables that are in our grading policy, which is not attached to this, or are they something different? Oh, it is there. It's under the IKF.
Yes.
So can we put in here, does it say on the tables that it's under policy IKF?
If you look at minimum course load, it says see board policy IKF under number 1, part B.
Right, but it refers to the tables before that. Am I just not seeing it? Under Learn Everywhere, it talks about A, successful completion of the Learn Everywhere program should result in a certificate redeemable for high school credit in the approved subject matter detailed in table 306-1. I think that needs to say detailed in policy IKF. Does that make sense? So people know where the table is?
Yes, it does.
All right, so that's page 3. A, no, 1A. It needs to say detailed policy IKF and then the tables. Does everyone else see that? Does that make sense to
Yeah.
people?
And then under the
And then if we want to look at them, the IKF is in this packet. I think it's the next one. No, it's not. It's way down. It's on page. It's on page 12. It has a lot of red because of state changes. The requirements for graduating this year are different than they are in 2 years, and different again for the next class. It's going to be very confusing for a few years. I'm not particularly thrilled about that. Okay. Any other questions or issues with the Learn Everywhere part of policy IK?
No, I think it's pretty clear.
Okay.
There was the last part where the last line in there was about student with IEP, and it says, as described in 146.01C. 1406.01C.
Yep, that is a federal law.
That's federal, okay.
It is I'm sorry, that's a state law. The New Hampshire Code of Administrative Rules, Ed 1406.01. The
Okay.
Learn Everywhere student enrollment requirements. We could put the ED in front of that so it makes more sense.
It's fine. That's, yeah.
Okay. So that's under number 2. Put the letters ED and then 1406.01C. Okay. I did have a question on the next section, G, denial of credit. It says, credit will not be granted for a course in a subject area lower in course subject sequence than one for which the student already has an earned credit. And so I was thinking about this. If a student takes like AP literature their junior year, but then their senior year, they take horror and lit, which is a lower ranked class. Does that mean they can't get credit for horror and lit?
They could get credit for horror and lit as an elective,
Okay.
but for the English requirement, it would be
okay.
the higher credit.
Okay. But they probably wouldn't need it for horror and lit because they would have satisfied the graduation requirement.
In most cases, yes.
Okay. What if they didn't want to take like a senior English? They wanted to take.
Well, they'd still have to take I think the requirement for English is three English classes, so they still have to meet those minimum requirements.
Got it. And those are, I'm just thinking in my hypothetical situation, it's freshman English. There's a sophomore English that's required. And then if they took AP Lit, they would have had their third.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So this shouldn't be a barrier for kids who want to take some of the interesting classes to mix up their day.
No, I think it goes the other way. How do you get around taking English 9 by taking horror and lit or something like
Right.
that? So,
Got it. Okay. And I don't want to pick on horror and lit. It actually sounds like a really
Oh,
great
it's
class.
a great class.
Right? Like, and I just feel like it's a class that kids would want to take, and I don't want them to be unable to take it. And I'm sure there are other examples that I'm not coming up with right now.
And it is a challenging class too for they have to read, books like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and
Yeah.
Bram Stoker's Dracula and, understand the going ons.
Right. And those can be challenging pieces of
Challenging.
literature.
Yeah.
And then they have to actually like analyze and write things, and
Oh, yeah.
it's not just watching movies. Okay. Minimum course load is no less than 3 credits per year. That is only 3 classes.
Yes.
Okay. What happens if a student doesn't, like, if they have some sort of something going on? Like, say, we've talked about this before. We've had students that have these like catastrophic illnesses where they're taking classes sort of like, do you know what I mean, through Google Classroom, or their stuff is being sent to them while they're at Boston Children's.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things the high school has done, both high schools have done a great job at, is kind of working with the families. And I think at the end of the day, what it means is it might be that a student might, after that, whatever issue is preventing them from taking full course load has been addressed, they might have to take other courses to catch up. That's one of the reasons when we talk about, when we talked about the SAT requirement going forward, it wasn't you're going to take the SAT in your junior year. You're going to take the SAT in your 3rd year of high school. So it's not based upon how many credits you've earned. It's the amount of time, the long length of time you've been at the high school level.
Okay, so we're not like kicking kids out because they
No.
aren't achieving enough credits per year?
No.
Okay.
And we even have on the next line with the approved IEP plan stuff that the need for fewer credits per year.
Okay.
The next line.
All right, great. Welcome, Dr. Scarpetti.
Thank you.
Okay. Implementation, we're on page 9 of our giant agenda. 10, really. We're like right in between. Not really. Implementation, the superintendent is responsible with the high school principals for making sure that the policy is followed. Is ILBA one of the ones we're rescinding? No, it is not. Okay. Great. I don't have any questions on this section. Does anyone else have a question on this section?
No questions on this.
Okay. So with that, I would like to, I've lost all of my pages again. I would like to move that out of the way. Move that we approve policy IK with the changes that we discussed. And those changes are on page 2, section E4B. We're choosing under the 2 options to go with the language that says any final review is subject to the policy BAAAA, that language. And then under page 3, section 1A, we want the word policy IKF before the tables. And then under number 2 on page 3, we want ED before the legal reference 1406.01C so that people know where to look and what it's referring to. Did I miss anything that you had?
No, I think that's good. That's it.
Okay, so that's my motion.
And I will second that.
Okay, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so having gone through all of that, I would now like to rescind policy IKAA, which is the interdisciplinary credit, which is now one of the sections of the policy we just approved.
Yep. I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay, so this is rescind. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
2 to 1. I do not have myself set up in a good way to take notes. Okay, and then I would like to, things are not in the right order anymore. I'd like to skip over IKB in the packet
Go to,
and then go to ILBAA, right?
yep.
Which is on page, hold on, I'm scrolling,
Page 20.
page 20. There it is. Okay. Which is Nashua's, oh, look at that. It was originally approved in 2008. We've had these for a lot longer than I realized. So this was our old high school competency assessments. policy, which has been integrated into IK. So I move that we rescind ILBAA as it's included above.
I will second.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions on that? No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then I also want to rescind IMBC, which is on page 23. And I apologize for things getting out of order in the packet. These things happen with scanning. And that policy, it's so funny, we just did this policy in June.
It sounded familiar.
But the Ed 306 updates and the new kind of recommendation from the School Board Association came out in the summer. So sometimes we spin our wheels. So I want to rescind IMBC because we have that now in this plot. And I just don't want to have different versions of the same thing in different places. It's confusing.
I second.
Okay. All in favor of rescinding, say aye. Aye. Okay. And then, before we move on, and I apologize, Dr. Scarpetti, I know you're here to talk about homework, but I don't want to forget what I'm doing. I'd like to move on to ILBAA -R, which is IKR. And in your packet, what do we call it in the packet? In the packet, we called it IKR, which is on page 21. So this policy is currently on the website entitled ILBAA-R. But we just got rid of ILBAA.
Right.
So I want to rename it IKR. And then Mr. Posca, wait, that's not the one with the chart. Okay, I just want to rename it IK-R and not change anything. Because this is where you look to find out what your letter grade means in the 4.0 scale.
Yep.
And as a parent of high schoolers, this is a topic that comes up all the
Every
time.
single time.
And I get emails from parents about it, and I'm sure the teachers hear about it constantly as well. So I want to make sure it doesn't disappear or get lost in a place we can't find it.
Yep.
Any issues with that?
No, makes sense.
Okay, so the motion is to rename, reletter, I don't know, reclassify? I'm going to say reclassify. ILBAA-R as IK-R so that it is right next to the competency policy.
I second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2 to 0. I keep writing 2 to 1. I don't know why.
Where's this?
There's no random third
Yeah,
person.
right? There's an angry ghost out there voting against everything.
Okay. Whew. And then, do we want to skip to IKB since our guests are here so that we don't keep
Yeah,
them
let's
all
do that.
night?
Sure.
Whatever works for you all.
It is, I mean, the packet's not in the right order anyways, so I can do what I want. All right, so let's skip to policy IKB, which is on page, I'll find it.
Page 11.
Well done. You are a much faster scroller than I am. Page 11. Okay, so there's no red in this because the policy committee looked at this policy last month, and none of us knows anything about homework, so we all went, oh, this looks good, and sent it on to the full board. But I know that Ms. Prin had a lot of questions and thoughts, so I'm just going to kind of hand it over to Ms. Prin to take over that.
Ms. Raymond, before Ms. Prince speaks, can I just kind of speak to how we got to this point?
100%.
And again, this is a brand-new policy that was required by ED 306. I think, I know previously, a lot of the homework practice had lived within the handbooks at the varying levels, whether it be elementary level, middle school level, the high school level. So when this came on board, in one of our conversations we had, in my opinion, and when I had shared with Ms. Raymond, that, and one of the things that Dr. Scarpati and I discussed, it was written broad enough that there was enough flexibility for how people work, give out homework assignments going forward. That's why I felt comfortable going forward. I think Ms. Prin brought up some good topics to discuss going forward at the board meeting about of what that should look like at the varying levels. And I think that's where this discussion should continue. I just want to say that the homework policy is one of those new policies required by law. So some version thereof has to go forward here, in addition to what is in our handbooks at the varying levels. So I hope that gives a little context of why we're having the conversation.
I lied. I do want to say one thing. We used to do this thing called teacher leaders. Do the teachers still do that? I think it was a grant program where they would pick a topic and investigate it and then do presentations. And it was actually really cool. I don't even know how long ago, but when my children were in 4th grade, one of their teachers did a project through teacher leaders where they investigated homework at the elementary level, and they decided to pilot no homework it was 2 classrooms at Birch Hill that had no homework for the year, and then they reported on their results, and it was very interesting. And I just want to make sure whatever policy we end up with, we don't end up mandating that teachers have to do homework, because I want teachers to have the flexibility to adjust for their students and their own practice. But I kind of think that's part of what Ms. Prin was going for anyways. Yeah. I just wanted to bring up that we have piloted no homework before. I don't know how all teachers feel about that. It was controversial.
I'm sure it can be. It's sorry, it's not close enough. For me, I don't want to take away from teachers, because I know some teachers like giving homework, and some parents want their kids to have homework. But my concern for our population here in Nashua is we have some kids who don't speak English as a first language. Would this mean that homework needs to be translated for them? Socioeconomically, kids may not have the resources to do homework or the time to do homework with parents. Parents might not be able to read the homework that kids are bringing home. I know that some people do want to have it. I know basically, like at the elementary level, it's been shown through the years, the research kind of shows that it's not super beneficial, but as kids get older, it is. So I understand, like middle and high school, the need for having homework. I just want to make sure we're paying attention to our population here in Nashua as we're developing this policy.
Out of curiosity, if you don't mind sharing your classroom, because you teach 3rd grade?
I teach 3rd grade. I actually don't. What we do is we send home a newsletter weekly with the kids, and in there we might put like tips. This is things you can do if you want to do. The only thing we really ask for kids to do is practice reading, just read. But I also work with a population that's really overscheduled. So they have, dance class and soccer and this and that and everything else after school. So we understand the need, and I don't think we actually have a homework policy in our town, but we decided as a grade level that we did not want to do homework in 3rd grade.
Do you do any projects?
We do occasionally. As a matter of fact, we're studying Massachusetts as a state, and the kids just had to make a poster at home of places they visited in Massachusetts. So we do things like that so that it's meaningful for the kids when they bring it in.
Okay. Yeah, and just a couple of thoughts to add on. I was at Amherst Street when the policy had the last big revision, when it kind of got into its form it was most recently in. And a couple of things that that had kind of attempted to accomplish was there were some inequities between schools, with some schools giving a lot of homework, some giving none. So trying to kind of even that out a little bit, and also put some time guidelines around that so that there were not any that were kind of deemed excessive. It also really set out the purpose of homework, which at elementary, I really feel is kind of some basic practice pieces, right? Reading, some basic kind of practice from the day's math lesson or fact fluency practice, things like that can be beneficial. And I think the most important piece at the elementary level is really building, having some chance or some experience to develop that routine of what it means to do homework, even if it's a very kind of rudimentary format of, I come home, I check my, agenda book or whatever format they use in, more third to fifth grade. That it's something that I need to kind of organize myself for the next day, look at. Is there a place in my house that's good for me to sit and be able to do some quiet work? For parents to be able to check in on that, just to try to set some of those foundational skills. It's less about what the actual homework is at that point, as opposed to kind of building some of those habits that when they get to middle and high school, they'll need to have, down. I think the other piece that we had talked about that time was not having grade penalties. Especially for students that maybe don't have access to that either due to language or home support, that, just because my parent's not home to help me with my homework or my parent doesn't speak English, I shouldn't have a lower grade due to that. So both making sure that that homework is practice that each student can do at their own individual level and truly do independently. And not making sure that there's not a grade penalty if that's not the case. So that's just my historical memory of kind of those conversations that were had. And, I like that this is much simpler and straightforward and is very open-ended. And I think for 98% of the cases, this will be implemented appropriately. I wonder if a follow-up conversation might be adding some language to, say, the elementary handbook that kind of specifies some of those other pieces that we talked about, just
That might be
for that
beneficial.
2% that might come up as problematic. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe some guidelines around, just like, I know the traditional thing is like 10 minutes per grade level or something like that, just so that it can be consistent across the schools, because I wouldn't want like one school or grade or teacher to be doing more or less than anyone else, so that way, we're at least giving some kind of, parameters around that, that's not too restrictive.
So there's a couple things. We talk a lot in this committee about big P policy versus little P policy. So big P policy is our district-wide policies that apply to everybody the same. And then the little P policies are the one, and they're on our website, right? Anybody can see it. The little P policies are things that are practice guidelines that are either in the handbook or in other kind of not online materials. And those can be school dependent or grade dependent or, work in a different way. So I want to make sure that when we're talking about this policy that we're using, the big P over umbrella. And I'm looking at this policy, the actual language here. And on paragraph 2, it opens with, prior to the assignment of any homework, the assigning teacher will provide a written class homework policy describing how homework assignments may be accessed, how homework will be assessed or graded, and and how homework assignments will relate to the overall class grade. So when I read that, really the whole paragraph, in my brain, I'm envisioning a syllabus that the high school teachers would give out at the beginning of the year, or that the middle school teachers would go over with families during open house. I'm not really recalling in elementary school any of my students' teachers having a written class homework policy. So that makes me think that maybe this doesn't apply well to the elementary section of our population. And so because it's in quotes, I think that that's actually part of the Ed 306s, that we can't strike it completely, but perhaps we need to talk about at the, maybe we need a line that says at the elementary level, and then whatever we want, and then The second thing would be at the secondary level, the assigning teacher would provide a written class homework policy. Because I don't think that the 306s I don't think the 306s are clear on that.
No, I think I do agree with your overall sentiment that a lot of this at the secondary level is addressed through, course expectations or syllabi that are distributed at the beginning of the school year. So I do think at the secondary level, it is, there is oversight of that. At the elementary level, could it be so much as like, a reference to the elementary school handbook for what that would look like? Because I think that's probably where that overall, to your point, the little P practice should kind of live on a more regular basis as we go forward.
Yeah, I'd be happy to draft something to run through the curriculum committee and then update, because currently the elementary handbook refers to the existing homework policy for that section, which is now changing to this. So I can change that rather than directing, it can direct to the policy, but it can also elaborate on some of those pieces that would be in a class homework policy as outlined in here.
Right, because prior well, actually now, if you go on the website, we don't have an official Nashua homework policy. Nashua just has never done it. We've left it up to teacher discretion
There
and
was a homework policy previously in the board policies.
not since I've been here.
There was.
Yeah, I don't think I could find one online. I looked just to see.
So,
I think at
No,
some
I
point
need
they
to find
probably
it.
moved it from policy to
Maybe it just got
handbooks.
moved to the handbook.
Yeah.
to the handbooks, it's
Yeah, that's why
possible,
I sent the email asking about,
Now I have to find
what
it.
do we have? Yeah.
right? Yeah, so,
Yeah, we wrote it was probably about 10 to 12 years ago. It was written, it was IKB, it was in the policies, and it outlined like the 10-minute per grade level, all of those pieces.
right, and so that really becomes the question, and I think, for me as policy chair, my role is really just to compare it to the laws. But when we get into this is just my personal opinion, when we get into the actual meat and potatoes of some of these policies that, for example, are on homework, or some of the finance policies where it's outside of my area of expertise, I would feel better sometimes with the finance stuff, we just have finance take the policy and then work through the language at their meeting so that it reflects their expertise, and then give it back to us or give it back to the full board, as opposed to us trying to run interference or guess. Because I'm really looking to you guys about whether or not you want to divide it up into having an elementary section and a middle school section and a high school section. If you want to have something about, if a teacher assigns homework at the elementary level, here are the guidelines. I don't know. I don't know what the appropriate
It might
answer
make
is.
sense because this also has for homework accessibility, teachers are encouraged to use online learning management systems when available to communicate homework assignments. And I'm just thinking about that as an elementary teacher. It just doesn't make sense.
Right, because you guys don't use Google Classroom.
We do in the classroom, but kids don't take Chromebooks. At least, and my son didn't when he was in.
Correct,
it
they
was
don't
only
go
during
home.
COVID times did he have a Chromebook at home.
Right, and I don't want our elementary kids to be burdened by online access, because I know a lot of families who are very, very clear about their family values and not having screen
Not having
time
screen time at home.
at home. I think it becomes necessary because of curriculum requirements at the middle school, but kids get a lot of screen time during the day, and I completely understand parents who are like, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Currently in the elementary handbook, this is an excerpt from what was the previous policy. It just reads, homework at the elementary level is assigned to help students develop good study habits, foster positive attitudes towards school, and communicate to students the idea that learning takes place at home as well as at school. While individual schools have some flexibility to reflect each school's community and culture, all elementary schools use the following homework guidelines as a baseline. Not to exceed, on average, 20 minutes for grades K to 2. not exceed on average 40 minutes for grades 3 and 4, not exceed on average 60 minutes for grade 5.
I was
So
one
we
of
can
those,
adjust that, but that's what that's the starting point we have here.
right? I was one of those annoying parents who, I was like, we're not crying over homework in elementary school. So if it takes you more than 10 minutes and you're getting frustrated and you're in tears and mommy doesn't know how to do it, then we're not doing it. Like,
Yeah, no, and that makes
that
a lot
was
of
the
sense.
end of the conversation.
Yeah, you're probably like a lot of parents that feel that way about that, especially at the elementary level.
Right? I was like, we'll just send an email to your teacher and we'll figure it out tomorrow. Like, I cannot imagine trying to sit down with a, 9-year-old for 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's a lot. That seems excessive, but that's me.
So,
And when you're running from basketball to lacrosse, like, it's hard to squeeze in those 40 minutes.
right. So I was just trying to find the 30604 online where it was updated in December, to see if it had that area in quotes. And it says, it talks about here, the 306.04, it actually says we need to make a policy on absenteeism and attendance if we don't have one. Which maybe we have one under JIC? I don't know. Discipline, records, character and citizenship.
JIC is, there's something in there for the ED 306 that has to be updated too. I know everyone likes talking policy, but I think 10 at a time is pretty good.
Yep. Oh, God. Oh, here it is. So Ed 306-421, it just says homework, including how it is accessed and assessed. It does not have that written class homework policy in the actual law. It just says we need a policy that addresses homework and how it is accessed and assessed. So if we want to make that written homework policy not something that is required for the elementary, we absolutely could do that and still be in compliance with the law. Which is good. That's good.
I would support that or reference back to the student handbook. I don't envision requiring elementary teachers to provide a syllabus regarding homework.
Yeah, so I think language-wise, I don't know if we want to start pushing him, like actually modifying the language tonight, or if curriculum wants to take it back. A lot of times what Mr. Posca and I do is Mr. Posca talks to teachers and administrators, and then he and I literally sit down across a conference table from each other, and we start redlining, and discussing it with each other. And then we bring what we think to this board or to this committee, and then the committee starts tearing it apart there. And sometimes we just do it here. I have no preference. But I don't know if you and Dr. Scarpati want to try and sit down and do that, or if it's easier to do it here for you guys. I know your schedules are more challenging than my schedule.
Yeah, and I wonder if the policy could move forward with that adjustment that we made, adding the piece about elementary getting referred to the handbook. I don't know that we need to change anything else with the policy as written. And then I'm flexible.
Yeah.
We can figure out a time that works for us to do that. I can kind of take what's there, get some feedback from principals and teachers as well, and then
I would love to have
send that to
input
you.
from them. Yeah.
Okay. So for this policy then, perhaps in between the first and second paragraphs, blah, blah, blah. Homework is not disciplinary. After that, we should say at the elementary level, teachers should refer to the, I don't know who we want, I don't know how to say that. At the elementary level, teachers should refer to the elementary handbook. How do you want that to say?
Could you just say, refer to the elementary student handbook for specifications regarding elementary school expectations or something like that?
We could, I just, for stylistic reasons, I wanted to make the entire second paragraph be applicable only to the secondary level.
And I think, I mean, if you read it, it sort of already is, right? I mean, that second paragraph.
Right? So I kind of wanted to add a line about elementary, and then at the beginning of prior to the assignment of any homework, I wanted to write at the secondary level,
Yeah.
comma, prior to the assigning teacher, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I need a sentence that makes sense,
To say about elementary.
that mirrors it, like, or we could just say elementary homework guidelines are found in the elementary handbooks.
Or just starting out with a statement that says the elementary student handbook should be referenced for elementary homework expectations.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I think that's-
And then at the secondary level, prior to the assignment of any homework, go from there.
Yeah, okay, so the elementary student handbooks should, did you write it down?
Yep.
Be, oh, look at you. Reference, see, this is what we do, only at a conference table where people aren't watching us.
The elementary student handbook should be referenced for elementary homework expectations.
Yeah.
Period. And then at the secondary level, prior to the assignment.
Right, it just picks it right up.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that sounds good.
And then at the secondary level,
And even that third paragraph is just for the secondary level. It's not.
right,
Yeah.
prior to blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this gets inserted. Between paragraphs 1 and 2. And then this is the add to first line, second paragraph. Okay, hopefully that is legible to the people doing the notes. All right, any other edits to this policy? Because I still have room on my piece of paper.
Can't see anything that I would want to edit else. I can't.
Okay, and then we will send the handbooks, which aren't due to be reposted until the summer, so there's time to update them.
Yeah.
As a curriculum project. Yay! I don't know when they need that by, probably May?
I mean, I am the one that updates it, so it,
Oh.
whenever. But I also think we could do an update sooner as well. It's just a document, and then Cam puts it on our website, so we could
Yeah.
update that and then just publicize out that there's been a change
Okay,
to that, to alert people to that. So I think it depends.
I think
How the line
that's
takes
good.
us.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
you know, because why wait till the summer and the beginning of the next school year when this decision has been made? And the parents may be really happy to see it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We can work on that.
all right, I'll stay in my lane on that. You guys do your thing. So I'm going to move that we update policy IKB homework as we just discussed with that line about the elementary student handbooks in between paragraphs 1 and 2, and adding the words at the secondary level, semicolon, before the first line of the second paragraph, which is now the third paragraph.
I will second.
Okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, fantastic. Thank you guys for coming. We still have 2 more policies. Oh, it's 5:36, and we have time for them. Fantastic. And I know we bumped this to 4:30 in case it ran over into the 6 o'clock time, but I think that we aren't going to need the extra time, which is super exciting. All right, so back to the agenda. Nothing. Oh, sorry, you're not on. So in my calendar, I had written down move policy to 4:30 because curriculum is meeting at 6. But that is not what came out on Friday afternoon. Yeah,
Get it?
which is unfortunate because Regan Lamphere usually comes to these and she's not available at 4:30 because she works.
Yep.
And I'm sure she would have, she always has good thoughts. So it is what it is. Things change. We are on IKF, which is graduation requirements. And that is on page, what's the next one? That is on
Page 12.
page 12. So I will just let Mr. Posca explain. There's a lot of changes that have happened. And I have feelings about them that aren't nice feelings.
This IKF needed, had a lot of requirements that need to be updated. We had versions living in IKFA, which talked about early graduation, but the high school requirement rates, high school graduation requirements are adjusting. And what they're called are also changing somewhat. So what I'm recommending is kind of a melding of what we currently have with our IKF, along with some of the verbiage that is coming from the updated IKF from the Ed 306. So that's why you see there's a lot of red lines and then some additions and added to it. So we've kind of taken what we've had and then we've put it going forward. And it might be best to kind of, as we did before with the other large policy, to kind of go through it section by section and talk a little bit about those changes that have been made.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we can do that. So if you scroll through, there's the previous language is in here. It's in red, but it's all crossed out instead of black and crossed out. So I don't know why we did that. We'll start with it. One of the things that they changed when they updated the Ed 306s this year was they changed the names of the diplomas that are offered by the state. It used to be an academic diploma and a core diploma. And now they have decided to rename the core diploma the New Hampshire Minimum Standards Diploma. I have feelings about this. Florida did it, and I just think it's terrible. Because, I don't know, I think if you earn your credits, you earn your credits. And I think that the students who stay here for the extra years until they're 22 deserve acknowledgement of the work that they have put in. Having said that, the law has changed, and the law now references the New Hampshire Minimum Standards Diploma and doesn't allow us to issue a diploma or even the core diploma to students who are here until 22 and don't get all 20 credits that they need for the Minimum Standards Diploma. I just think it's a travesty. I would have voted against it if I was on that. But the academic diploma is the same, though. I think the 27 credits is still 27 credits.
Yes.
And it was 20 credits for the core diploma, still 20 credits.
I think as we, just to note, the 27 credits the same. How we get to the 27 credits is a little bit different.
It's different, and you'll see there's a whole section with a grid. There are multiple grids of how you can graduate. The other section is early graduation. So occasionally, students have, well, actually, I think it happens a lot, that our students actually get through the number of credits that they need, the exact courses they need to earn a diploma before the spring of their senior year. And any parent who has a high school student can see if they go into Aspen X2, there's a tab where you can see what the graduation requirements are based on the expected graduation year, the class of your student. And it tells you what courses your student has taken and what courses they still need in order to earn their diploma. So occasionally, students will ask to graduate early in December or a year early. I don't think it happens very often, though.
Does not happen often. Sometimes you see it for some people who want to enlist in the military, and that might become a factor, so, but not a common occurrence.
So, and honestly, I would really encourage people who aren't like, Doogie Howser, geniuses, to look at some of the dual enrollment programs. If you get to that point where you have exceeded like math that we offer, because it lets kids stay with their peers, but also get the academics that they need. All right, so the first section, the state graduation credit requirements is the same as it has been. So all students graduating with the class of 2027 have the same thing that they've had for the last couple of years. I forget the last time we updated this, of the number of credits required to graduate. But then, starting with the class of 2028, so 2027 is the same. And then students entering the 9th grade prior to the 2026-2027 school year, so this year. Oh, so it should be for the 2026-2027. Yeah. All right, so starting with the class of 2028. This is confusing.
Is that,
It might be best just to keep to this verbiage here as opposed to going with graduation years.
Oh, because it can be different for each kid. Okay. So starting next year, freshmen next year who are entering in, can we make it so it's the same, like either make it all 1/2, 1/2, or 0.5? 'Cause you see how the old chart has the 0.5s and this chart says 1/2 credit? It's annoying. I just want it to be the same. Does anyone care if it's 1/2 or 0.5?
no.
I don't care either, as long as it's the same. Okay. Art is the same. We've renamed information and communication technology as digital literacy. And I don't know if that includes new classes or not. Do you know?
The next challenge of that is the work that would be done by our guidance staff and kind of what makes up those requirements there. That's a whole nother sheet and a whole nother conversation. So when Ms. Raymond was referencing, how do I know what my child still needs, what's going on? The counselors actually have a sheet for each of the students about what they took and how that counts for those graduation requirements. Going forward with these, this is another layer that has to be added in as we kind of go for transition to these updated requirements.
Okay. And as I am reading this again, this chart is for students entering the 9th grade before next year. So this year's freshmen, not next year's freshmen.
Correct.
Also probably this year's sophomores and juniors as well. Because it says anyone entering 9th grade prior to 26-27, and then the next one is entering 9th grade starting in 2026-27.
That is correct.
Okay. So this chart is for our current 9th graders. They need 4 credits of English, which is the same, 3 credits of math, which is the same. The physical and biological science is the same. The U.S. history is the same. No, the U.S. history is 1 credit, and then there's a 1/2 credit that is now going to be required on U.S. and New Hampshire government civics.
Correct.
And then the 1/2 credit of economics is the same. And then we had previously required 1 full credit of world studies or global studies or geography. And that's going down to a half credit to accommodate the half credit of civics that is now going to be required. And then we have previously that they had to pass the citizenship and naturalization exam, but I don't see that on this chart. Is that still a graduation requirement?
It is.
Should it be in the chart, or is it listed somewhere else? Oh,
It's an actual assessment. They can take the class and they can pass the class, but they also have to pass an online assessment as well.
do we need to add that? Oh, it's its own section.
Its own section
All
later
right,
in
so
the policy.
previously it was in a chart, now it's its own section. Whew. Previously, they needed they needed 1 credit of phys ed and half a credit of health. That's staying the same. And then this says open elective 6 credits. We didn't previously write down how many electives you needed because we just let people do the math to get
yeah.
between 14 and a half and 20. But this does the math for you. And then our freshmen next year, they have changed English to mean that half of the credit has to be of your 4 credits. So you need 3.5 credits of English, and at least 1/2 of that credit has to be in writing. Previously, you needed 4 credits of English. I don't know why do you know why they went down?
I do not.
I mean, I'm glad that they are requiring you to take half a credit writing. Nashua always makes kids do freshman writing, so our kids get that right away. But I don't understand it.
Looks like it goes logic and rhetoric. Is that where the half credit's going?
Possibly, and that will be embedded in other courses. I think when we kind of go through some of these changes, what will be a very interesting meeting kind of going forward is when we talk about the program of studies for next year and where kind of some of these changes will live in some of the courses going forward. So the high school principals and their guidance staff have done a kind of, if these updates come to us, have started on a big task of kind of adjusting some of the program of studies and how are they working in, like, Mr. Johnson brought up logic and rhetoric, where is that credit living going forward? Are we creating a logic course? We are not. We're embedding it in other courses that already exist.
So, and that was one of my questions, because when I read logic, I think a mathematics course. When I read rhetoric, I think philosophy. So do we have any idea where that's supposed to lie? Or, like, is it defined?
I don't, we've had the conversations. I think it's going to be living in more of it's not going to be living in more of the humanity world than the math world.
Okay, fascinating. They've changed the U.S. history to a half credit and New Hampshire history as a half credit on its own, whereas previously it was 1 credit, both of those together. I don't know that we offer any classes by themselves that are U.S. history. I don't know that we offer any history courses that are only half a credit. All of our classes are semester.
1 credit, yeah.
So we don't have a lot of quarter classes in history.
Nope, and I think, again, as we go forward, you're going to see how those are now going to be embedded in those other U.S. history courses.
Okay. It's worth noting that they hired a consultant who's not from New Hampshire to come do the 306 updates. So I don't know how this really lines up with how other school districts run their courses, whether they all offer quarter classes or if they do semesters like we do. But the ones that I'm familiar with do mostly semesters.
A lot of the districts, in this area, the South Central area, we've had a lot of conversations regarding the impact this has on our course offerings and what does this look like going forward. So I think there's been challenges to, again, as this comes down the pike, where does this fit in? How are we making sure we're aligned with the Ed 306 updates and what they have to be?
So it's also worth noting that there were thousands of public comments on the Ed 306 updates, and they were overwhelmingly opposed to these updates. But it passed unanimously anyways. We are keeping the half credit in civics, but now we are requiring a full credit in history, government, and the U.S. and New Hampshire constitutions. this is interesting because we do AP Gov, but I don't know that AP Gov goes over the New Hampshire Constitution. Like if they could just add that in that time between the AP test and the end of the year. I don't know. That was rhetorical. Let's see. And then another credit in world history on top of that, which was a half a credit, but now they want a full credit. Still a half a credit of health and wellness, one credit now of phys ed, which I think was the same, and 4 electives. So, and I'm sorry, half a credit each of economics and financial literacy, which previously you didn't have to take a financial literacy. But it's a really great class, and I think everyone should take it. The personal finance class here at North and South, it's fantastic. And then 4 credits of open electives. So essentially, starting with our freshmen next year, they have less discretion for being able to take electives like art and music and design and CTE and some of those other things to be able to get the 20 credits, which is, again, the minimum standards diploma. Most of our students are graduating with the 27 credit diploma. So there's still those extra 7 credits. So they're not losing the opportunity to take a lot of classes unless they're struggling and they, need to repeat or have a non-traditional route.
Ms. Raymond, I think you brought up a good point about the flexibility to take some of those other courses, which is why the high school staffs are working to kind of combine some courses that have some of these topics within them to allow for other flexibility within choosing some of those courses. So that's been a focal point, particularly when we're talking some of our CTE pathways, which are so important to many of our students.
Yeah. It boggles my mind because I hear all the time at the state level that we need to invest more in teaching kids the trades and teaching kids some of these other life skills. And I'm always up there being like, Nashua does that. Nashua has the biggest CTE program. We invest in this stuff. But I don't think people believe me. So we usually get the course program changes to I think it goes to the curriculum committee sometime in the spring for the next year to approve like the changes. Will that happen again this year, or will it be?
No, the process will be coming forward probably November, December-ish.
That early.
So then they can then kind of finalize the program of studies, within the program of studies for course selection that begins roughly end of January, beginning of February.
Okay. Oh, that sounds fun. Let me know when that gets to curriculum so I can go and be annoying there. Okay. The next paragraph is about competencies. This is not new information. It's in black. We had it before. We also wanted to keep in here the cum laude system that Nashua adopted a couple of years ago, that instead of doing class rank, we now recognize students based on their GPA in blocks like they do at colleges and a lot of private schools. And so you'll see here that for the classes, for this year's class, the 2026, we still have some kids who are on the 5.0 GPA scale because they had taken an AP course when they were freshmen that was graded out of 5, even though we have switched to the 4.0 scale.
Okay.
And parents who are logging into Aspen and students can see that Aspen provides students a variety of GPA options to click through from the 4.0 scale to the 5.0 scale so that they can see what it looks like.
Yeah, and that way people understand when they're applying for colleges and stuff that they understand the system.
Yep. So starting with the graduating class next year, all of their courses will have been on the 4.0 scale.
Okay.
but many, many colleges ask for the transcripts, and then they recalculate GPAs
yes.
based on your transcript, and then they choose which classes they're actually considering towards your GPA. It's astounding to me how many colleges do that with the number of applicants they have. But for the really competitive programs,
Oh, sure.
they want to make sure that there's not grade shenanigans happening with GPAs, and so they do the work themselves. The New Hampshire State Scholar requirements, as far as I know, that has not changed. Okay. And then this whole new section, Section D, is the certificate of attendance. We have to choose between attendance or achievement for special education students. And then we can call it a certificate of completion, a certificate of attendance, or a certificate of achievement. So instead of awarding our students who are on IEPs who complete their work when they turn 22, now they will get a certificate instead of the core diploma.
I definitely like achievement there. I mean, that's,
I like achievement the best myself. Completion is okay with me as well because it signifies that they have done something and completed it. All right, votes. Mr. Johnson?
I'm going achievement.
Ms. Prin?
I like achievement.
On your thing so it can go on the record. Use your,
Achievement.
thank you. I know you don't talk a lot, so you don't have it on consistently.
Achievement.
Achievement. All right, so we are going under, on page, what page is this? Page 4. So 4D, we are going with achievement. Okay. It is not a high school diploma. So they've made that very, very clear. And the IEP team, I do like this. The IEP team meets with the student and the parent and decides whether or not they are going to get the certificate with their common age peers when they complete whatever program they're in or upon reaching the age of 22. So I do like the ability to have some flexibility there that works for each individualized student and their family.
Yeah.
Because I do know some students who don't want to stay until they're 22. They at 18 or 19 they don't want to be here anymore, and I'm glad that they don't lose the chance to get a certificate. I would just, I don't know, I'd like to encourage people to stay for the 20 if they can get the 20 diploma. And then there's a paragraph here about they're still entitled, even if they take the certificate or if they participate, all of these students can walk at graduation, and we encourage them to do so. So even if they participate in that, they are still eligible for a free and appropriate education until 22 under federal and state law. So there may be other programming that happens, whether it's in the school or not, right? Right. Okay. And then here's the civics exam and U.S. citizenship test. We previously had that you have to pass this as a star on our chart, and now it has its own section. So all students in New Hampshire, I don't remember what year this started, but it's already started. We've been doing it already. Have to pass the 128 questionnaire for the U.S. citizenship test in order to get their diploma. So I don't think we have like a sitting date for this.
No, I think the major change to this has been in play, I think, for the last 2 years. That this is now, the requirement, the major change is this is now has to be an online assessment that is taken. Before, it was, it's more localized opportunities to do it. You can take this test as many times as you want online, but it must be completed online.
So this says that it will be administered to students as part of the History and Government of the United States and New Hampshire course. But we don't have a course entitled History of the Government of the United States and New Hampshire. So how does that work?
We'd previously given it when they've taken their civics class.
Okay.
And it's been embedded in the civics class. We're continuing to work with, again, as I said before, the major changes now. Anyone who took it prior to, I believe it was on or about September 1, could have taken the localized version of it. All versions after starting with the school year have to be the online version.
Okay. So are we allowed under the law to modify that line, that this assessment will be administered to students as part of this course or another civics or history course?
I'm not quite sure that's necessary, Ms. Raymond, in the sense that if, let's say you took the course first semester and you still were struggling to pass it, or the online assessment, but you were done with the course, you can still continue to take the assessment second semester as it is a graduation requirement.
I'm thinking about the students who maybe, again, that we don't have this particular course, right? So I'm thinking about our students. Well, I suppose we would by then, right? If this is for kids who enter in next year.
Yeah.
When those different graduation requirements hit, and again, it's still going to be part of probably that U.S. history and New Hampshire history course, but they're going to have multiple opportunities to take to successfully complete the assessment if they're not successful in their first try.
Okay. And who tracks this? Is it like in Aspen or something?
Unfortunately, that's one of the challenges that we're undertaking right now. It's been kind of under the history department with support from the counseling department. Now that it's an online course, the state will still be capturing that data, but now internally we also have to note who has successfully completed the assessment and who still needs to complete the assessment.
All right. Can Aspen be modified to have like a box for that or something? I'm thinking about, we have a lot of parents who check Aspen to make sure their kids are doing what they need to do.
That they have all their requirements done and.
Yeah.
Something, again, I think as we go forward, this is new, I
Right.
think we're still trying to figure out what's best and how we're communicating that going forward. So I think that communication piece is really important. I think it's something as we talk about the program of studies, when that comes forward, that is going to be a conversation piece that we should continue to have.
Okay. All right, so the next section is about the FAFSA. There was a briefly lived state law that required students to apply for the FAFSA,
Even if they weren't going.
even if they weren't going to do it, in order to graduate. And I actually sponsored the bill up at the State House that changed that requirement. Some people felt very strongly that they wanted kids to do this. I think it's important that if your child is thinking about going to college or a trade school,
Yeah, absolutely.
that it could be helpful to do the FAFSA. But I didn't think at the time, last year when I filed this bill, or the year before, I forget, that it should hold up a student's diploma. This is a family decision. So the law was changed. My bill with Representative Noble out of Bedford basically said that the schools have to let families know about FAFSAs. They have to let them know what the FAFSA does. And they have to make sure that there's some sort of informational, the information goes out to parents. Here in Nashua, I can tell you as a parent of a senior, I've gotten a number of emails about the FAFSA, and the school has hosted information nights. In the spring they did another one last month. When I worked for DCYF, I used to bring some of the teenagers on my caseload to the school for File a FAFSA night with their parents, and they had people here at the school that actually helped families go through and do it. I don't know if we still do that or not. But I know that the community college does.
As part of it is part of the McKinney-Vento process that has to be followed.
All right, so yeah, so there's a lot of things that they do, but the red line is because previously it said that if you were graduating after 2023, you had to file it or you wouldn't get your diploma. So I'm glad we changed that. Thanks. It was, it was unanimously approved by the House and Senate. Like, everyone was like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. We don't know.
Right.
I don't know why people thought it was a good idea. Any other questions about all of these massive changes to IKF? We went over, my apologies. Okay.
And I think it's all there. I mean, we covered everything. So,
Okay, so then I move that we approve policy IKF with, under 4D, we're choosing achievement as what we want to call our certificate. So we need to delete attendance and completion.
yep.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then one last thing on our agenda is IKFA, early graduation. And I am going to move that we rescind that policy because it is now embedded in IKF. It doesn't need its own policy. We took this whole paragraph and put it right in the middle of IKF.
Yep. So I'll second that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Look, we got through all 10. So Mr. Posca and I still have a lot of policies that are on the list of things that need to be updated because of updates to the 306s and updates to other state laws. And then I also had signed up for the fall legislative update training with the New Hampshire School Boards Association, where they will go through whatever laws that were passed between the last legislative update, whatever the governor has signed. So that will probably keep us busy until the end of the year. I also received a request from a parent that we review our, I think it's the wellness policy that governs what kind of snacks and drinks we're allowed to sell. Because it doesn't reference caffeine. So I know that the head of the food services and the principals have been doing some research for me. And so we'll hopefully have some information on that as well. And as always, if anybody has other things that they want us to talk about, send me an email and I will add it to the list.
Yep.
'Cause the list just goes on and on. Anything else, Mr. Posca?
Nope.
All right, great. So I got nothing. Yeah, I think that's it. I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so we are adjourned at 6:10 p.m. And thank you guys for indulging the extra 10 minutes.
It was nice to be.